the accumulation of complexity and the accumulation of just simply development in all of these areas, I think metaphorically is a lot like the accumulation of kindling in the Yellowstone fires of the late 80s and early 90s. I don't know if you all remember this. We might even watch a video here that we'll talk about this time. I actually have always spent time in the West. My parents would take me out here over the summers. And I remember that time. I was probably like 10 or 12, but I certainly do remember it. And it was actually an interest, like the Yellowstone fires of 30 some years ago they offer a really interesting lesson in terms of fire management, and I think it's a sort of like deeper metaphor for the world. So basically, fire management previous to these massive wildfires was to put out every fire that occurred. And in effect, they were treating Yellowstone National Park as a park. That is, they were treating it like Central Park. If some hobo lights a trash can on fire in Central Park, the police will be alerted and then the fire department will come and spray it out, right? Because why would you want to fire? You're endangering everyone. Yellowstone National Park is different. It isn't, granted, it isn't quite the absolute wilderness that you can find in, say, Alaska and Canada, provinces in Canada, or territories in Canada is how they're described, or and even some places in the West, in Montana, there are areas that are like wilderness. Um, it's not quite that. There are roads through there. There are famous hotels and rest stops and gift shops and so on around, Old Faithful and all that kind of stuff. But it is like the wilderness. There are bears migrating through there. There are bears killing deer ruthlessly in Yellowstone Park. There are all sorts of wildlife engaging as if they are in their natural environments and they are aware of the humans, but they, in some ways, pay them no mind. It is the wilderness. You don't have grizzly attacks in Central Park of New York City. That would be hilarious, but totally unheard of. So it's different. And you can't treat Yellowstone as a public park, but they did. So they would put out every fire. What this created was a sort of accumulation of kindling in the park. And so what it meant was that, you could put out the first fire, the second fire, you could put out the 10th fire. The problem is that 11th fire, the one you can't put out for some random reason. It's too big. You had a dry spell for a month and lightning struck here and you couldn't access that area. But whatever random reason creates the fire that you can't put out, it is going to be not the same as the second fire. It's going to be 100 or 1,000 times worse, which these Yellowstone fires were. I mean, it was hell on earth of explosions and um, uh, 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 total demonic mayhem. I don't know how to describe it. And so they learned the lesson, which is that you actually have to let these fires burn. You have to allow a natural cycle of fires burning out various regions. And that creates nutrients, new trees can grow. Now, it's going to take decades for them to be as great as the trees that were already there. So you're sort of losing something, but this is a natural cycle. There's not a kindling buildup in the rest of the forest. You can sort of, manage the fire. That is, protect the hotel at Old Faithful. Protect some man-made things, but allow it to burn. And that means that uh, tens of thousands of wildlife are going to die. That means that wonderful trees are going to burn up. And that's very sad. But you have to be cruel only to be kind. In order to make sure that the whole thing doesn't go up in flames, you need to do this. And I wonder if you can think in this way of the endless complexity of California is a sort of kindling buildup of the area that we just keep building one more property in California. We keep insuring this property that maybe shouldn't be insured due to government regulation that is enticing or maybe to some degree forcing the insurance of some place that shouldn't be insured. You're giving an incentive for someone to build there. And so you just keep building up this complexity, which is a sort of kindling for the one day that it's all going to go up in flames catastrophically. And maybe that's what we're seeing. Just a thought or two, but sometimes you have to abstract yourself from like culture war politics. You have to abstract yourself even from libertarianism and market mechanisms. I think they market mechanisms would play a role in preventing people from building in places they shouldn't, but there are also market failures, and humans act on their desire much more than their rational calculation. They want to keep building and building and building. And you're just creating a complex society with this deep contradiction of the next fire is going to be worse. And maybe that is what we're seeing in California. So those are just some thoughts I had. Does anyone want to jump in on California and